The fear can be very real because it can be an uphill battle, and it's important to count the costs. So before I unpack what I'm referring to, let me pause and introduce myself. My name is Marissa Senya, and I am a freedom coach. I basically work with women who are feeling trapped in unhealthy relationship dynamics by providing strategic guidance and resources to them so that they can gain the confidence, the clarity, and support that they need in order to make a peaceful exit from relationship dynamics that no longer serve them. And in the previous video, before this one, this is part 2, the part 1, I was unpacking the question of, is it possible to have a peaceful exit from a toxic relationship? And of course, I lean towards yes, you should definitely watch that video before you watch this one because this is part 2. And in that video, I gave 2 aspects that you must consider to even begin to have peace around leaving a chaotic situation. And one was listening to your intuition, and the other was creating space for yourself in a self-care routine, right? So in this video, I wanted to unpack another aspect of what it takes to have a peaceful exit. And I think this is really important, and this is a really, a very critical one. So I will probably spend the majority of the video talking about just this aspect. And this aspect is this: facing your fears. In order to have a peaceful exit from a toxic relationship, you have to be able to face your fears. The fears that you have are real. And that's something, again, I don't make light of as somebody who has walked with hundreds of women and men and have had my own tricky, difficult, challenging life transitions as well. Confronting the fears around them were critical to everyone I've worked with, and myself included, to making a decision that would bring peace into my life and into their lives, okay? So, face the fear. And the fears are very real, right? So if we're talking about toxic relationships, I just want to clarify that a toxic relationship isn't just toxic because maybe it is physically abusive. That is one aspect, but it is far from the only aspect. Emotionally abusive relationships are just as toxic, as, if not more so, because it's sneaky, it's tricky, and sometimes it's hard for you, especially as a woman in that situation, to give yourself the room to acknowledge the situation that you're in. Other times, and the abuse and the toxicity varies, right? It may not look the same, and we all don't have the same stories. But the reality is it's still under the umbrella of a relationship dynamic, right? Where you are not feeling seen, you're not being heard, where you have to suppress your own needs and your own wants in order to try to appease the other person in the relationship. It is a dynamic where you don't have a voice, or you don't often have a voice. Maybe you get it once in a while. It's cyclical, right? When times are good, it might be really, really good, and you hold on to that for dear life. But that pendulum will undoubtedly swing the other way, and you will go through the hard times. And those hard times are also incredibly difficult. Okay, so when I talk about facing your fears, right, what is the thing? It's taking that space that I mentioned in the previous video. You've got to have time to yourself, or else you can't hear from yourself. You won't be able to think through, what am I in and what do I need from me right now? So what is the fear? According to, you know, the National Center for Domestic Violence, you know, an organization that's based in the U.S., states that, you know, there are so many fears around why women in particular might stay in a toxic relationship. And those fears can range from judgment to financial, to, you know, fear of their physical safety as well. And also the lack of support. So there can be a range of fears or just a combination of several fears. But I think the reality is it's easy to just kind of feel those feelings, but not acknowledge what it is, what's behind the feeling, what exactly are you afraid of, right? So being able to take the time to yourself that you've created, that you've carved out for yourself to say, what is holding me back? What is keeping me here? Is it the kids? Is it money? Is it judgment? Right? Is it safety? What is keeping me here? Is it a lack of support? Right? What are the things or the dominant thing that is holding you back? Because, of course, we can have multiple fears. There can be multiple fears. But sometimes there is a dominant fear that rises above all the other ones that can keep women stuck or trapped in a toxic relationship cycle. And so it's really important to take that time to understand what are your fears saying to you, right? And what can be done. Because if we can't acknowledge the fear, if we can't face the fear, then it's really hard to understand how we can get the support that we need to address the situation, to make the change that is so desperately needed in our lives. Okay, so facing the fear is critical to our survival. Having worked with women, I have listened and counseled and heard a range of fears. And all of those fears were valid. Whatever it is that you're feeling right now, whatever it is that might be keeping you bound to this toxic dynamic, this unhealthy cycle that you're in, that fear, it's real and it's valid. And so I want to acknowledge that. It's not silly, it's not foolish, it's 100% valid. Okay? And the beautiful thing about the fear is that all fears can be confronted if we are willing. Okay? There is a way forward. I know when you are in your fear loop, right? And you are listening to the voice in your mind that is telling you, what am I gonna do? There's no way I can afford this. I can't afford to be without this person. This person is the breadwinner of the relationship. I've got student loans. I've got, you know, rent to pay. I've got bills. I can't take care of these kids by myself. You know, I'm not gonna get X, Y, and Z. All of the things. And, you know, I'm worried. I'm scared for my life. You know, this person has made threats. Or, you know, what will my family think? What will my spiritual community think? What will the people in my culture think? Whew, that judgment, that fear of judgment it's a real one, and it's one that definitely holds women back, especially women from cultures that really, really value marriage and being in a marriage or being in a partnership long term. That is a very real fear of judgment. But I do want to say, you know what? All of those people, they're living their own lives. They are living lives of their choosing. And you get a chance. You only get this one life right now to choose the type of life you want to live. And at the end of the day, isn't it exhausting? Isn't it exhausting living for the approval of people who love you with conditions. Isn't it draining to have to think and fret about what so-and-so thinks when so-and-so is probably not really thinking about your day-to-day like that at all? It's a lot. And it's okay to start to put that burden down. But in order to do that, it comes with being very real and saying, what am I afraid of? What is the thing that is holding me back? I can't answer that question for you. Only you know the answer to that question, because they're your fears, right? And we all don't have the same fear, even if we are in similar circumstances, especially as women. Everybody's circumstances, dynamics are unique. And so it's up to you, the one, to be able to say, gosh, what is the thing that is holding me back? And start there, because you can't change what you don't acknowledge. Okay? And so that's, and so I'm going to end there because that's a lot. But the homework assignment, again, with this one is to just take a moment, if you're listening to this, to say, what is the thing that is holding me back? Is to face your fear. You can journal it, however you want to go about it. What is the thing that is holding you back, right? That is keeping you in this dynamic. Okay, all right. So I'm going to end there. Make sure that you are liking and you're subscribing to this channel. And if you know a woman that could benefit from this video, please share it with them. Sometimes it's easier for folks to listen to or connect with a complete stranger than the people in their lives. So if this video even helps just one woman that is in a holding pattern right now and needs to make a decision, then it's totally worth it. And that's why I do this. So until next time, keep well.